All right, what's up, my people, mi gente? Welcome to episode number 9 of What's Next podcast. Little sound effect there. Hey, as you can see, I got my little soundboard, got my little computer going, so I had to take a little bit of a break because
you just diminish yourself, and I'm sorry, like 3 times, like a little this, a little that. Listen, we are in the studio.
We're about to get nasty in the studio. But seriously, I had to take a break to get my stuff together. I have my stuff now ready. We're ready to get back in action with What's Next podcast. I'm your host, Lou Maroto. I'm glad you can join us today. But before we say anything else, I always like to give a special thanks to my friends that have helped me acquire the equipment that I need to come up with this platform. So, special thank you to Simpatico Real Estate, my boy Tommy Morrison, and my friends at the Bushel Stop for all your landscaping, residential and commercial needs. All right. So with that said, I got my brother from another brother, one of my best friends, Mike Seville.
What's going on?
So, Mike Seville, one of the best friends. I appreciate you coming at last minute's notice because I technically called you 2 hours ago.
Yeah, and I know you were tripping too. Listen.
How many times did I call you?
This is my 3rd time on the show, so I must be the most requested guest. I must just have nothing to do, but I appreciate the invite every time, man. I appreciate you.
Well, absolutely. I said, listen, I need to do a recording, and I need to make sure my I's are dotted and my T's crossed. And I said, who else better to have on a show than my boy Mike Seville? And just chop it up for about an hour or so and then talk about different topics. Talk about business, where he grew up from, where we grew up from, some of the things that are going on today in society, law enforcement, the communities. So some of the things that I want to get into. Just tell me real quick, Mike, you were born and raised where?
I was born in New Jersey and moved to Florida, West Palm Beach, when I was maybe 6 or 7. So I was pretty much raised in Palm Beach County, Florida.
Okay. And you have how many siblings?
I had 4. I had 2 that passed.
That's right.
R.I.P. Rest in peace to Michelle and Marsha.
Rest in peace.
And 04. And I have a younger brother, Mark. I call him West Side.
West Side Mark?
West Side Mark. He's on the east side, but I call him West Side Mark. Yeah, so.
Mark was, real quick, Mark was in my class a couple of months ago.
Was he?
Yeah, in the concealed weapon class. And he came in.
Can he shoot?
Yeah, he can shoot, but he was a little tardy.
That sounds
like your brother?
That sounds like Mark. Listen, I was taking Mark shooting when he was maybe 10 or 11. I had a P22. What was that? A Walther P20. That was like my first. Was it my first gun? Might have been my second gun. I think I had a 40 first. I think I had a 40 first. And then I got a Walther P22 because, the bullets were like real cheap.
Yeah.
You bought, like $20 and you got 500. I don't know. It was a lot.
Yeah, they're very inexpensive.
Yeah, really inexpensive bullets. And I took them out. We were in Tallahassee at the time. And we went, and they have an outside range over there. And so they shoot whatever. I mean, you go, that's like the country. Tallahassee is the country.
A fully automatic.
Yeah, like you saw all kinds of stuff. I think that was the first time I ever saw, it might have been an AK-47. It might have been fully automatic. I don't know what it was, but they were shooting, and my face was just like, like vibrating.
You can feel that concussion of those rounds.
But you shoot big stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
Like, what's the... Like what caliber? What's the biggest that you've ever?
I think the biggest caliber that I've shot at work would be similar to a 50 cal Barrett.
Okay.
And that's something that only the snipers qualify in or certify in, and it's really technically it would only be used, say, for a large scale event like Sunfest, 4th of July, and
they got 50 cal. They got. That
no, we would use that just in case, like someone was trying to break the perimeter in a vehicle to maybe run over people or to hurt people.
And so you're shooting to stop the vehicle.
The vehicle. You would use that technically to stop the vehicle.
So if something like that hits the vehicle, what happens? What does it do?
It's gonna do some major damage to the engine. It's gonna stop it in its place.
Wow.
Really, you know, it's a it's a large caliber bullet. You know, and it comes with a lot of energy. So that it's definitely not meant to hit humans.
But it does hit humans.
In the military, yes. In the military, they use them for numerous scenarios.
And so here's my question, because I remember when I was growing up, and Lou, I don't know all the the terminology for the guns, etc. But one of the guns that was like immortalized or something was the Desert Eagle. Everybody was talking about the Desert Eagle. Now the Desert Eagle, what kind of caliber bullets does the Desert Eagle take?
That's a 50 cal.
Right. So you have a 50 caliber in a in a handgun.
But there's a difference in the actual bullet size.
Okay.
It's considered, and if anybody out there correct me if I'm wrong, yes, they call it a 50 cal Desert Eagle, but the bullet's a lot smaller.
Okay.
But that gun also does a lot of damage.
But then a lot of people with it that I used to talk to about it was like, it's as far as accuracy, as far as just being a good gun, it's probably better, more lethal than you throwing it at somebody than you actually shooting the gun.
Oh yeah, as far as like hitting the target,
Yeah.
because there's so much recoil and it's a heavy gun.
Yeah.
It always reminded me of that RoboCop gun.
Oh yeah.
From back in the 80s or 90s when that movie came out, because it's such a large frame steel firearm. It's made out of steel. It's heavy.
It's expensive too, isn't it?
Yes, and I don't think you would want to carry that concealed.
Nah, but I always think about Charlie's Angels. I forget who the actress was, and she had like 2 of them. And she come out shooting the the Desert Eagles. I was like,
I had
it looks cool though.
I had a SWAT instructor. One of my best friends retired now, but when we would put all kind of different accessories and stuff like that on our guns, some people laugh, like, well, why would you put that on? And then he would come up and he would see it. And he goes, "Chicks dig it." And if he's listening, I'm sure he remembers the statement. But all right, so you grew up in, for the most part, here in West Palm
Beach, Florida, right behind North Shore. The Show, that's what we used to call it.
Yeah, I remember. We won't say the street.
The Show.
Oh my God, that was such a pain in the butt, that damn flea market.
Oh man, and I used to love it because I lived right around the corner from it. And the neighborhood was dope. We grew up, I guess looking back on it, we kind of were tight knit. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely like not how it is now. Like, I don't think my son Elijah knows anybody in the neighborhood. Maybe a couple kids he went to school with, but back then you knew, that's such and such, or that's such and such.
Right.
Oh, they're playing at the people. Such and such is playing at the basketball court, and you go to the basketball court. But the point was the flea market, and I had a couple stories in regards to the flea market. But right around the corner, Christmas Eve, I know that was a pain for y'all. Like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, those were like the flea market was the only place open in West Palm Beach on Christmas Eve from like 6 o'clock, because the mall shut down, everything shut down. It was just flea market till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you had Christmas Day. I think they opened up on Christmas Day. But I mean, it was just all, you had to go. You just had to be. It was the show. You had to go.
No, and I get it, because I used to go over there and cop a couple things here and there, when I needed some stuff.
We had to be seen.
But I was definitely packing when I went in there.
It was, but I think eventually, and I don't, and because you're in law enforcement, there was like a huge shift when, like, I don't know, for me it just seemed like it was like a dramatic change of when you could go on the flea market and everybody was having a good time, and some people didn't even like each other. We were in high school,
right.
Whatever it is, but you got along because we were there just to enjoy the time. And then at some point in time, I don't know when it flipped, and he was like, "Man, I'm not even going there to get a haircut. Somebody's gonna get killed." And I used to go in there. I used to carry my pistol in the flea market at some point in time when I was just like, "Yeah, I'm go
just in case.
You want me to go in the flea market? No problem." But it changed. I don't know when it changed, but I know after 2000 it was all downhill, and it still is. Like I pass by there all the time. I still think 45th Street is for those of you who don't know, I'm a real estate agent, but I still think 45th.
That's a plug.
Real
we'll get to that in a minute.
Real estate, but I think 45th Street is an overlooked area. There's some really nice neighborhoods. My neighborhood is still nice. Within that 45th Street corridor, but the flea market, I always said once they figure out what they're gonna do with the High Lie and what they do with the flea market, things are definitely going to change. You forgot to turn it on? This guy's.
Hey, but I got this one going, so we good. I told you this is a dry run.
Hey, you got to timestamp it.
Well, no, we good. I got this one rolling.
Are you sure?
Yeah, this was rolling.
Okay.
Hold on, let me get up there.
Yeah. You got to leave. You got the audio.
Yeah, this was good.
You can say, "Hey guys, just hang in there for 11 minutes."
We are good.
Hang in there for 11 minutes. Hey, yeah, but
no one said we were professional. I was a professional. We were professional.
I think you're doing an awesome job.
Hey, because Mike has his what is it? Motivational Mondays.
Motivate to activate.
Motivate to activate, and you do that on Mondays, right?
Every Monday from 9:30. Got some new stuff coming up, man. I can't wait for you all to see it. We'll have a new show starting on Friday. I just think we're at a great moment in time. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing as well. We're at a great moment in time when we can affect a lot of people with what we have. You know what I mean?
Like social media.
Yeah, this like
YouTube.
A lot of people were shying away from it, and I kind of knew this years ago. But it's like, listen, you can plug in it because people want to hear a lot of what you have to offer. So so Mondays at 9:00. We do Motivate to Activate, and then on Friday, starting, I believe it's the 27th, and I have some more information about that because it's going to be big. We'll be starting at about 6:00, so excited about that as well.
And that's you do a live stream, right?
Yeah, all live.
I still need to go to your house and just to see your setup.
Because
I saw you had the little filter on the mic and everything. And
yeah, well, I mean, it's the mic.
So you don't.
I mean, this essentially is what does it. The little clown nose is what I'm calling your thing.
I got him in black too.
But yeah, so it's what was I saying? Yeah, my
about
setup is
the flea market. Growing up.
No, I was saying my setup. I think we started talking about social media, and it's a great time, and I think we'll eventually get into it talking about entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur and a business person and you're not on social media, and really I go as far as saying if you're not running ads, then I don't really know what you're doing, because eventually you're going to be priced out of that market as well. So to be able to get people to know who you are, which is interesting because I run Facebook ads for my real estate business.
Yeah, I've seen them. They look good too.
I got people coming up to me in Poland, "Oh, you're that guy," and I'm just like, yeah, I am that guy.
Now, do you pay Facebook for?
You can take a picture with me. Go
You need me to autograph it?
Yeah.
So do you pay Facebook for those
ads?
ads?
I pay Facebook. Okay, yeah, and it's not. It can. I mean, as much as you want, but let's just say I think most people should be spending about, if you're an entrepreneur and you have something to sell, services or products, whatever, you should be on it for at least $5 a day. You should be spending at least $5 a day. Like that should be in your budget as an entrepreneur. What's that? $300 a month? 5 times 3. No, it's 150. 150.
I almost pulled out my calculator.
So $150 a month you're spending for people who don't know you, to get to know you, like you, hopefully trust you, and you run a respectable business. That's pennies. I mean, and that's a great investment for a business to have for only $150. And you should go more if you're doing more of that. And I'm big on high ticket items as well. So, and real estate is probably one of the highest ticket items that a person, well, you're gonna buy, but in regards to commissions, it's a high ticket item. So the best bang for your buck. And then I was talking to Joel, our brother Joel, the other day. Joel's like, "I'm calling you Mike the statistician." I said, because I got all these numbers. I don't know where they come from, but I just remember random things.
Damn.
And so when you're talking about a high ticket item, And that's anything over $3,000 a piece or whatever. You know what I mean? When you talk about your return on investment, like, for me personally, for each sale, it's normally about $600. But if it's $600 and the average sale in Palm Beach County is $7,500, like, I'm spending $600 to make $7,500. So the net profit, well, not the net profit, but essentially $6,900 is what I get from a Facebook ad. You run those all day, every day.
Let me ask you a question. Now that we're talking about social media and using it as a venue to promote yourself, excuse me. I see your ads. Now, who does all that? The photo editing, you do that yourself?
Well, I wish I could take all the credit for it.
See, that's what I'm saying. Huh?
I have an assistant. So I have an assistant, which is another thing, and I'm going to get into that as well, because we've become so global with the internet. So now I can afford to have an assistant offshore.
I wish I had a little balling.
No, listen, offshore you afford to get your assistant offshore. For us, it's almost pennies on the dollars for what we would pay for someone here to be our assistant. And let me tell you something, as long as she doesn't have to meet somebody, and this is Angel, shout out to Angel. Let me tell you.
Go ahead, Angel.
And some of you all get phone calls from Angel, because Angel is calling all the time. And she does a lot of work, man. I don't know where I would be without Angel. So she does a lot of my graphic stuff, but as far as actually putting the ad together and what to do with the ad, I do all that stuff.
And you learned that from just trial and error?
No, I learned it from paying somebody to teach me. So like 4 years ago, I actually
okay. Yeah. So you went somewhere.
Oh yeah, 4 years ago, and I invest. And me and Joe were talking about this recently as well. Is regards of investing in yourself and investing in your business. What you'll find with a lot in real estate, so specifically to the industry, is that a lot of people don't want to invest in themselves. So if you're not going to invest in yourself or your business, all you essentially have is a hobby, which is fine. But call it that. Call it a hobby. Hey, I help a couple of my friends and families when they're from time to time, my sister, brother, mother, cousin, best friend, I help them get a home. So that's why the average real estate agent does, they say 8. I don't even, for the most part, it's probably 2 to 3 deals. The average real estate agent is 2 to 3 deals because why? Because they don't want to invest in themselves. They don't want to invest in their business. So I have no issue investing in myself in my business. So when there was a course to learn Facebook ads, this is maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I invested in it. Great person, James Rembert, excellent guy. Went through his boot camp, went through his course, and he walked me through. And this guy, and I'll continue. So let's take him for instance. I want to say James, and this is years ago, was spending about $100,000 on himself in regards to coaching and just investing in himself. And of course, this runs the gamut of personal training. This runs the gamut of business coaching. This runs the gamut of personal coaching. So he has a personal coach. He has a really, probably at the time he had a personal coach, a fitness coach, his business coach, but just investing in himself. And from that, he's turned, I think at the time, he had like 2 or 3 businesses that were doing over 7 figures. But he's investing $100,000.
Now, when you say coach, you mean like a life coach, somebody that motivates you, that teaches you how to be a better person or whatever?
I'd like to think of a life coach as a person who can kind of see your blind spots and knows how to communicate it well to you. So I think it's very important for people to have that, because our best thinking is what got us to the place that we are now. Like hopefully you were intentionally attempting to do some, be correct in what you're doing or be your best self, but that's your best thinking. So we miss out on a lot of things because we can't see our blind spots. That's why they're blind spots. And so we do the best that we can. Now, I think when you get a personal coach, and particularly a life coach or a life coach, they're seeing your blind spots. They're probably explaining how you can better yourself and things that you can do. Of course, you, at the end of the day, ultimately have to put in all the work for it. But just coaching in all, he like I said, at the time, he had a personal coach, a life coach. He had a business coach. He had a fitness trainer. And I guess in totality, he was spending close to $100,000 on, those 3 things.
It adds up quick. I know that for sure. It adds up quick.
Yeah. So I had a real estate Facebook. Oh, excuse me. I had a Facebook coach, and then I recently just did. I took a course last year in Atlanta. I went out to a convention, and I was at like 6 months of coaching that, which just kind of refined to get more qualified applicants. Because you can run
through social media.
Because you can run Facebook ads all day, and but people just clicking on stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to get to the point where they click on stuff, and then they have more intent, and then they go here and they answer several questions, and then eventually you want to get them to the point where they're booking your call. So you'll have them run through all these different hurdles, because the more hurdles they go through, the more they want to do it. And so I got, I'll have people just clinging in and texting me, and I'm like, okay, Angel, if Angel's there, she'll pick up and have the conversation. And really, I'm at the point now where I want people just to book their time with me. So, I'll go in and I'll sit and look at my calendar daily and say, okay, I got 2 calls I need to make today, and we have that conversation about how I can help them within real estate.
Do you have an office here in West Palm, or do you kind of just
so I'm with
different locations?
Yeah, I'm with EXP. So we don't necessarily have an office. The entire thing about EXP and helping to keep money in the agent's pockets was not to necessarily have that office. I'm eventually going to open an office. So which is interesting that you brought that up. He asked the best questions. Oh, which one are we looking at?
That's what's next. We're good.
Yeah, he asked the best questions. So I was in 2017, and hopefully you learn this lesson. I'm learning this lesson myself. In 2017, I got my real estate license. I was already doing real estate through, doing investments, doing property management, etc. I was doing a lot of that. You know a couple of places that I was managing.
Yeah. The ones that you would call me, hey, come by here real quick.
Hey, I remember one time, anyway, this is a whole different story, where the SWAT was out there. I was like, ooh, close.
Is that my place?
Close the door. But there was an 8-plex. Anyways, oh man, I lost track of where I was.
The office space.
Oh yeah, so the office space. So I started in 2017 at an office in Boca, which I was going to like every day. It was me and another guy named Mike. In my mind, he didn't know I call him this, but I used to call him Southside Mike because he's in Boca. We're in
Southside Mike. West Side
Everybody
Mark.
got West Side Mike, South Side.
What am I?
Southside Mike.
North Side Lou?
Costa Rican Lou. So me and Mike started at the same time. We always had the same ideas, because I'm telling you, which camera? I'm looking at one of these cameras.
You look at that one.
I'm
right
looking
there.
at this camera. A lot of these brokerages, and this is for anyone who wants to be in real estate or who is currently in real estate and aren't seeing the results that they like. The brokers don't know what they're doing either. Okay, a lot of brokers are just flying by the seat of their pants, or they're operating in a system that's antiquated. They've been doing the same thing since 1970. Where and they're going to tell you to door knocking. I'm not telling you that door knocking doesn't work. It does. It can work for you. However, it doesn't work for me, because I'm not a door knocker. Would you answer? You probably answered the door.
What was the first thing I said when you opened the door? Jehovah's.
Like it's a different.
No disrespect to any religion, but
it's a different time, right? It's almost like the phone calls. Like when we do cold calls, but you used to get better results when you did cold calls in the 70s. Everybody want to open their phone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Everybody, whoa, the phone's ringing. Who's this? It's whatever. Now people, you got caller ID on the phone. People, so now you have to make probably 10 times the same amount of calls, because I got a group of people that do that. So they have to, instead of making 100 calls and getting 5 people, you got to make 500 calls to get 10
right.
people to actually get on the phone. And then we're talking about, now they answer the phone. Now they're mad that, like, who is this? So now you have the whole the spiel. And once again, you can make money cold calling, because I made pretty decent money, but it's not as effective. And a lot of these brokers don't understand that. And so we talk about the real estate burnout, where people are in the industry for 6 to 12 months. I know. Lou doesn't want to talk about real estate.
No, I want. Go ahead, speak on it. It's a hot topic.
Oh, so people don't want to be in the real estate industry, and then they'll tell you, oh, just your sphere of influence, Once again, all these things can work, but you don't want to be the one at the party that, oh, here he comes. He's asking me about
Oh, the guy at the party.
What I'm gonna sell you?
He's got a card in his hand.
Yeah,
Damn.
I'm gonna sell you out. So, anyways, long story short, me and Mike were in that office, and don't get me wrong, definitely got some excellent training there while we were there. But it was time. The time came when it was time for me to go, and so I ended up going to another office, and that office was terrible. And then I eventually ended up joining EXP. This is probably in 2019, 18, 19, something, probably 19.
Now, real quick, just hold that thought for a second.
Go ahead.
A person should know when it's their time
To go?
To go.
Listen, you got to know when it's your time to go.
and I'm speaking from personal experience, because I just left a specific unit
Okay.
that I worked very, very hard to get on back in 2000.
Right.
And I know that it just, because of different health issues or aches and pains here and there, you have to know when it's your time to go.
You got to know when to hold
And
them
when
and
to
know
pass
fold
the
them.
torch to somebody.
Remember that song?
Yep.
You got to know when to hold them.
You got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And I had to fold because, just it's that time and just...
You feel it. It's like the energy is there. The same thing with the city.
Yeah.
The city was like, listen, it was time for me to go. But it was time for me to leave that place because I felt as if I had learned everything that I was going to learn, and it wasn't going to get any better for me. And it was in Boca, and I didn't want to continue driving down to Boca every day just to say I had an office or whatever. So ended up going to EXP, which, like I said, is a cloud brokerage, but we do have offices. And then this guy ended up joining me maybe about 4 or 5 months later. He was looking, it was time for him to go too. And so he ended up going to EXP. And so now he's been grinding. This is the power of focus. Because see, with me, I got a couple different things going on. So I'm like doing, I'm doing my real estate. I'm definitely doing investments. I have, several other businesses. So it was just, which is it's not always good. And you really have to have the capacity. So this is the power of focus. So this guy's been grinding and grinding and grinding. And so finally we kind of fell out we always kept in touch, but he finally said, I looked up, he's opening up an office in Boca. So I was able to go to his team meeting last Wednesday. He has about 8 to 10 agents at the time, probably more. This is just who showed up at the team meeting. And he's doing excellent. And he has a special thing happening there in Boca where he's actually teaching people how to be their authentic selves while selling real estate. Like selling real estate is a byproduct of them being their authentic selves, them being consistent, and them understanding what it is that they want. And I think it's just awesome because you got a lot of people are running around with their head, like a chicken with their head chopped off at 10 o'clock at night and taking phone calls at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night because, understandably so, people can be frantic when they're buying a property, especially at X amount of money. At the same time, if you give people the understanding, your expectations, things can change. But you get burnt out real quick when that person, your buyer, calls you at 12 o'clock and you don't answer, and he or she has a new real estate agent
the next day
at 8 o'clock in the morning.
I saw that someone, I think you posted somewhere, and I was reading the comments that you put in reference to that meeting.
Right.
Meeting an old friend. So that's pretty cool that, when one door closes, another one opens.
It always, and it will be. You just you can't be afraid to let go sometimes.
Leap of faith.
Yeah.
Leap of faith. So what else you got going on, Mike, besides the real estate? You got, what you say, you got other investments like what?
Well, I do. I want to say I'm an investor first, especially in regards to real estate. So I'm an investor first. So I have several properties, West Palm, all in West Palm, and we actually have a property in Jamaica too that's rented out that I don't put as much attention to as I can. And so there's some things that I'm thinking maybe in the next 6 to 8 months that I'm gonna think about doing. But right now, I really, really want to focus on building this real estate business. Got some exciting news in regards to that coming up. But definitely want to focus on this residential real estate. Is hot right now, and I think it's going to get a little bit interesting now that the market is kind of starting to course correct. It's not. You
don't think it's going to crash a little bit?
It's not going to crash.
No.
And this is the only reason why is because. Now let me tell you what. There's going to be deals, but the deals are going to come from people who don't have the knowledge. So a lot of people are going to lose their house because they don't have the information.
So you think people, because the market went very well for sellers, right? And it's a seller's market right now, right?
It was it's still a seller's market.
So you think that a lot of people purchased homes that maybe they can't really afford?
No, they can afford it because the mortgage, they wouldn't have been able to get the mortgage if they couldn't afford it. This is not 2008. In 2000, and this is what people keep thinking. In 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, or up until 2008, that's when the crash. Essentially, when they called it, in 2007, it really started to warm down. But what happened was people were getting these mortgages at subprime rates. So you were getting your interest rate of 1%, 1% for 3 years, or 1% for 4 years. And then what they were being told was, listen, don't worry about it. Just buy it. Just get this $600,000 house. Although you work, you're getting paid $20,000 a year or something. Just get it. Don't worry about it. You're paying $800. Does that work for you? Yes, it works for me. Well, yeah, just get it, because in 3 years, you see what the market's doing. The market, it's just going to double. So you're going to have more. You just refinance. Just keep refinancing. That's what they kept telling people. And so when the flood stopped, when the dam came and it dried up, that payment went up. And I mean, and we laugh, but I actually had to see someone who had their home that was repossessed. You know what I mean? And it was sad. And they worked their butt off to keep the home. Like, worked their butt off when that mortgage probably went, I don't know the exact numbers, but the mortgage probably went from $1,200 to $4,500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when it made that jump, however long this person worked their butt off to try to pay this $4,500, but you're just throwing money into a pit, because how long can you keep that up? Like, how you can't work 24 hours a day.
You're living paycheck to paycheck.
Not even that. Like, you're
struggling. You're in the hole.
You're in the hole. Like, you're every year it gets worse, and so you weren't and so it was sad. I want to say that in 2008 it was sad, but now it's like the banks aren't loaning money like that to people where it's 1%. So if they bought a home, they're going to keep it. Now with the whatever the flu.
The flu.
Yeah, I don't want to mess up your algorithm with the whatever's going on. With whatever's going on, the issue is now the forbearances. So you got people who may or may not have been out of work who are, we're not able to, they're not paying their monthly bill for whatever reason. Maybe they are back in work. Maybe they're just still not paying it for whatever reason. Now the question is what's going to happen? Are they going to be allowed to modify their loans? And most banks are willing to work to modify their loans, just because of the way this thing has been. I don't want to say it's a lot of propaganda, but the way this thing is panning out, most people can more than likely can modify their loans to either take those payments that they missed and push it on to the back end, etc. But some people just don't know. Like, back in 2008, a lot of people could have modified their loans, but people walked away from their home. You could have got paid. They used to do things called cash for keys for people, where they were like, okay, fine. The people finally were like, listen, you can take the house. And the banks were like, fine, we'll take the house. But then we're not giving you this house until you pay us to leave. So you had banks who were paying people $12,000, $15,000, giving people X amount of money to leave the house. Some people didn't even get that. They just left the house. And the bank took it, as opposed to fighting to keep their properties. And a lot of people did end up keeping their properties and getting their loans modified to something that they could afford, et cetera. And it's definitely was certain. I've seen banks where they just gave the people the property.
Yeah, because they don't want to lose. If the house is valued at $500,000,
right? And
now these people that are living there can't afford it, but at the same time they're like, you're gonna have to kick me out.
Yeah.
So the bank doesn't want to invest all that extra money. They're rather try to work. I think they try to work with you.
Some see $500,000. It might be at that point where the bank is like, I don't know, but
if you go up,
yeah. But the thing is that what could you do to the house? You had people who were upset, pouring concrete in toilets. You know what I mean? Taking this and holes and walls.
Just punching holes.
Yeah, so taking out cabinets, stripping things down to nothing.
Right.
Putting holes, whatever it is. And the banks would, that's why they would do that cash for keys. Like, okay, well, listen, if this place comes back intact, we'll give you X amount of money. You know what I mean? People would take that. But the banks were willing, and they did work with a lot of people to modify loans. Like you know, if the house is now worth, and it was in 2011, like you saw like these 4 or 5 bedrooms in 2011 that were being sold for cash for like 200,000 or 225 or something. The bank was willing to say, listen, we'll work with you. How much can you afford? You know what I mean? Can you get 1,500? We know you can't afford 4,500. Can you afford 2,000, 1,500? And some people could. Now, fast forward to now, you just got to have the information. And I'm hearing a lot about these landlords. Listen, landlords, you and your tenant should not be in opposition. Like, that shouldn't be your enemy. You know what I mean?
Agree
like,
with you on that.
Your tenants aren't tenants aren't your enemy. So if your tenants aren't your enemy, like I have a tenant, and probably they're not my enemy, but
You said she.
she's not my enemy.
You're supposed to say he or she.
He or she is not my enemy. But I'm willing to more work it out. So she went to the county and got X amount of money, or I'll tell her, like, listen, go, and you got the county people calling me. Listen, your tenant is approved for X, and O, paying me for them plus late fees and everything. You know what I mean? So it's just like you got to find out what's going on. The people who are always end up losing are the people who don't have the information. You have to have the information, of course, then you have to act on it. Because I could be a jerk and say, nah, you don't have it. But I'm not here to make someone's
you don't want to
life
lose a
miserable.
tenant. You try to work with it. And that's good.
Maybe I do want to lose a tenant, but
depending on.
I got to look at my money. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes do like to push buttons.
Hey, let me say something real quick. Now that we're talking about real estate, if anyone out there has a 2-2 condo, no more than 2 floors, with a dock, deeded dock. Please call me 561-308-9653.
What about the bridges? Can they be
as long as
fixed bridges?
They can be a fixed bridges, but as long as I can get around to get into the intercoastal.
You might have to go like real early in the morning or something. Is that low tide? When's low tide?
Yeah, the tides change. But I can work as long as I have access to the intercoastal. I can go around as long as that ride ain't too long.
Always have, if it's a dock, you'll always have access to the intercoastal. The question is it
how far you want to go?
Are you going to get like a 50-foot?
No.
What kind of boat you putting in?
I'm looking for like a 25, 26-foot boat.
So you need about a 30-foot dock, or around a 27 to 30-foot dock. What's the minimum?
I need something with probably about, give or take 15,000-pound lift.
Okay, so it has to have a lift as well.
It's got a lift, yes. Dock, deeded with a lift.
What if it's a great deal and it doesn't have a lift?
But as long as I can install one,
if you can install,
we can.
That's how you work it out. You gotta work it. You gotta work it out that kind of way. Because oftentimes, especially let's take this market for instance. You're not, and most people aren't going to get everything. And let's talk about this boat thing. More people bought boats in the last year than like any other time ever. And there was a lot of people coming down from New York, or not New York, but the North, that were coming down here and buying because people wanted to access the internet. The intercoastal, the beach. So they bought boats and they want the docks. So now you're at a situation where you may not necessarily get everything. You might get the house may be outdated, so maybe you might need to fix the house up a little bit. Do your own, put what you want to put into the house because the person who's selling this property may be an older couple or something that's like, listen, we don't want to deal with boats anymore, but that we haven't updated this house since 1980 or 1970. Or doesn't.
See, I can work around that.
Yeah, see,
I can work around that.
That's the communication part of it. See,
I can work around a lot of things.
So it doesn't have to have a boat lift in it, but it has to have the ability.
The HOA has to allow a boat lift.
Wonderful.
Again, 561-308-9653.
Now call me, his agent, 561.
Let's switch up the conversation a little bit.
Let's go.
Let's talk about like one of the things that I was speaking to you earlier during the numerous phone calls and texts that I sent you. I know you guys hate me when I try to communicate with you guys.
We don't hate him.
I just know.
And he's talking about we. He's talking about his cable toes. But it's endearing at this point. 10 years ago when we were going through it, it was like, what is wrong with it? And then we figured that's just Lou. So Lou will
can't get right.
Lou will text you if we have something scheduled. Like we had something scheduled. He scheduled it with me. We scheduled it 3 hours ago or something, whatever it was. So for 1:30, I just know I will get 15 text messages from Lou between the time that we started and the time that I need to get here. Up until the time that I'm getting here, and I'm going to get a phone call if I'm not here 15 minutes prior to time. But just know that we just know.
That's just me. I got issues.
We just know you on top of it. And
and the thing is
that's actually a great thing.
The thing is, and that I was going to cancel. I didn't want to cancel because
we know you didn't want to cancel.
I couldn't get these.
Your anxiety won't allow you to cancel. Because I think once you put things like in your calendar, whatever, in your head, once you put things like in your mind,
need to get it done.
It has to happen, that's an excellent thing. That's an excellent thing.
Like if you told me right now, which I already know, like my schedule for next week, like I shouldn't be thinking about it right now because we should be living the moment. Right, I shouldn't be worrying about next week.
Listen, you don't say what you should and what you shouldn't. Well, go ahead. I'm
Right.
listening.
So you see, I'll let you put your 2 cents after. But like again, I already know what I'm supposed to be doing next week. And it's already starting to. I'm getting my thoughts together for Monday. I'm like, it's only Friday.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have conversations before?
With myself or?
Right, no, I know you have a conversation with yourself. Do you have the conversation, like say you have a meeting with, like today, you had a meeting with me today. Did you already run through this show prior to us taping it in your mind? Like you were just like, I'm going to ask this.
No, this was, I told you last minute.
Okay.
So like I was doing something else earlier and then, I took my time. I don't know if you guys see the new studio in the backdrop. I put the what do they call that? Studio foam or sound foam, whatever. Yeah. So I wanted to do this. I wanted to record it, videotape it, and then ultimately I have to edit it myself. So something new for me because the gentleman that was helping me before, Jose. Good for him. He got accepted into law school. So now I have to learn how to do all this stuff myself.
Which is good. I think that's dope.
So, I'm very happy for him. And as a matter of fact, he was here earlier to help me out with a couple little things. And he went about his business and left. So I really appreciate Jose for that.
What kind of law is he thinking about getting into?
He's not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, they concentrate on that first year because the first year is the toughest.
Whether you're not gonna make it or not.
Yeah, I mean you really gotta,
buckle
down and study up. But going back to what one of the topics that I wanted to cover was the community dealing with law enforcement nowadays. What's some of your thoughts? What's some of your opinions?
I love them.
The community or the police?
I love the police. Let me tell you something. So I'm in Palm Beach Gardens now. It's a whole different. It's a different vibe, and I'm trying to explain to people about these different lifestyles and these different vibes. It's a different feel, and I love where I'm from. Right, I love the show. I love North Shore. I love where I used to work at. I love Pleasant City. I love. Well, I can't say I love, but I've had a lot of different properties in different places, right? And they're not necessarily the best places in the world, so to speak, right?
Right.
And so I was, and I got a dog now. I got a huge dog. He's huge.
He's huge.
Oh my God, he's like 9 months. He's like 100 and something pounds.
Ugh. And he's still a puppy, isn't he?
Yeah, sweetest dog in the world. Like I just want to be around you guys. Anyway, so.
What's different? I mean, what's your different vibe that you're feeling?
Officers are riding so. I'm in a gated community, so the officers come into the gated community from time to time. Well, I think it's every night actually, because every time I'm walking my dog, I see 1 or 2 officers, and when I'm walking them, their windows are down. They're waving at me, they're stopping. Man, that's awesome.
Stopping you?
Yeah,
waving you.
So they're stopping, and the interaction is different. Like, I mean, the interaction is different. So I don't know if I've changed or it's the area. I'm gonna say it's the area because it's just a different vibe. Like I feel safe. I feel good. As I was here, I did see that one officer pull somebody over in the community, and nothing's worse than getting pulled over your own.
What'd he do?
Getting a ticket in your. He probably was driving too fast. Now I'm probably that old guy who's like, "What is this guy ripping through the neighborhood for?"
I'm glad I don't know because you see him over here driving. It's supposed to be 10 and they're doing 30. You're gonna kill a kid.
You're gonna kill somebody, but just the interaction that I get and. It just feels different. So now when I was in the back in the neighborhood, it was more, I guess it was more antagonistical, and it was on both sides because you're looking at the police officer like what do you want? Like you know what I mean? And the police officer is looking at you like I just want to go home. Yeah. Probably you would know, right? So I don't know. It was more antagonistical, and you know our story. It's like I think you probably were the first officer that was. I was just like, maybe everybody's not so bad. But then you find out that they really are. No. But this. I met Lou maybe 10 years ago, and I'm up in age at this point in time. I'm getting up in age, excuse me. So 10 years ago wasn't I'm in my 20s, right? I'm in my 20s, and that's when I'm having this conversation with this officer. Like, okay, there's more to it than just this uniform thing. But before that, it was troll, it was 5-0, one pigs, whatever. Get about it. So I would say there is a difference. I think there's a difference, and the attitude from the officers are also different because I don't remember any officer like stopping me and. Having a conversation. And there were a couple, but there were few and far in between. Yeah, every officer that comes in my neighborhood now is just seems they're smiling. They're just cruising through the neighborhood. Hey, and I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, I think nowadays community policing has been one of the biggest things that every department has tried to. I'm not going to say recreate, but to better.
Right.
The whole purpose of being one with the community, not just like you said before, what's this cop doing in my neighborhood, and then the cops looking at the other person, what are you doing? Do you belong in this neighborhood?
Right.
Right. Because unfortunately, there could be 1% of either or, that just have different opinions of people.
Right.
But not everybody's like that. So take each encounter. Whether it be with a law enforcement officer or with somebody in the community, take it for what it is. I always tell like the new officers, be respectful, look good in uniform and how you dress, because the second you get out of that vehicle, you're being scoped. People are sizing you up.
Right, of course.
And not always for like bad intentions, but they're sizing you up to see what kind of police officer you are. Are you going to be that friendly police officer that's still going to get the job done, or you just that slug that no one's going to listen to?
Right.
So that's very important. So,
well, I'm glad that it's getting better. I think at one point in time, and it was kind of tense. And I guess I'm just really taking it from the news. It seemed like it was pretty tense last year through, the whole election, the pandemic. There was a lot of tense moments in regards to. Police and what was going on in the community. And here's the big thing. They call me statisticians, right? But like the stats just don't add up to what the news is actually showing us and what's really going on in regards to interactions with police officers and communities. Because if it was crazy as the media makes it to be, the numbers would show that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think the majority, probably 99% maybe, are there to do their job and go home and not necessarily have negative interactions, because who wants to have that, who wants to take that with them, as opposed to, but there are some, there's that 1% that tends to get, magnified, you know what I mean? And polarized and saying that this is what a police officer is, and this is what a police officer does, et cetera, et cetera. And it like I said, it just might not be so. I wish, like I said, one of the greatest things that we did at the center, and I worked at the Youth Empowerment Center with kids, was when we brought the police officers in. Of course, you had some of those the overtime duties, etc., and had that breakdown to where, you got to interact with those kids to let them know that, listen, he's a person just like everybody else. He broke his ankle like anybody else would have.
I was supposed to break ankles that day, not break my own. Remember, I was bragging too.
You were.
I said, watch this, Mike. I'm gonna break some ankles today. First game, crack.
It wasn't even a game. It was like the pre-game.
We were warming up. Man, I shouldn't be playing basketball with running shoes. All right, man, wasn't that funny? That shit hurt like hell. Hey, I remember being on that fire truck, on that rig on my way back to St. Mary's, and they were hitting every bump possible. They couldn't give me enough morphine.
Oh man!
Damn, man, you had to laugh that hard, man. Do I need to pause this?
It looked like your foot was like facing it. Wasn't it going like the other direction?
It was perpendicular.
It was bad. It was bad.
It was a bad break.
It was
man.
bad. But
I came back. But anyways, going back to the youth center.
It was good to have. So getting back, and that to me is community policing. See, and here was always one of my gripes in regards to the police. Police officers was that they don't live. They no longer live. A lot of them don't live in the areas that they patrol. And there was a time when they had police officers living in those areas. So this police officer knew somebody's mother. He knew your mothers. He knew your father. He knew your family. And what happens is that you have to humanize people at this point in time. If you know someone's parents, or you know someone, or and vice versa, if you know this police officer's daughter, or you know their family or whatever, then they become human. Oh, that's Lou. You know what I mean? That's Officer Lou or whatever. And it makes it a difference when we started to go away from that. Like, I think it would have been dope to incentivize police officers to buy in certain communities that they patrol in.
They did have that program years ago.
I believe it.
And I remember one or two officers that lived off of Manning.
Okay.
Somewhere in the area, like the 5500 block of Manning.
Let me tell you what that does for like a police officer as well. On the flip side of it is that he has that, but if you're incentivized, like, paying their down payment or giving them reduced interest rate, whatever it is to allow them to have it, that doesn't mean he has to live there forever. He can stay there for 5 years, then he can sell that to buy something else, or he can keep that as a rental property. Yep. And then he can move on to something else. But this, in regards to the money that the appreciation that you're gaining from that house while you're there, coupled with the incentive, like that's financially incentivizes people, or anyways, to do something similar. Like, you don't have to be there forever, but to have been there for 5 to 7 years and then move on and just have something like that going, I think that's an excellent program. Where's Quicken Loans or somebody? Listen,
and I remember, Mike, that. And I think you had to stay there for 3 years.
No,
which is,
I think that's
dope. That's good. Yeah. But it was only for the north end of the city, certain areas of the city.
I can see that.
So I think if they would have made it citywide, it would have given more officers.
But then, if it's citywide, how do you get those in the problem areas? How do you get those people to so I get it, not just have that south. Community. So I think it should have what they will call a census tract, like certain areas that they have to live in. But I mean, just having that police car sitting there, like, it changes the game. I think a lot of police officers should open businesses in these communities, and I'm gonna tell you why. Nobody's going in there to mess with
to rob you.
Yeah, like you have that kind of it's going to deter a lot of things.
And you're going to have a great rapport with that community, because I'm thinking of like New York.
Right.
If I had a bodega, right, a grocery store in New York, everybody knows Poppy.
Right.
Poppy, let me hold the bread, let me hold 240s or whatever. I'll get you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? That's the kind of relationship that people have in the neighborhood up north. and it should be the same way down here. You know,
Matter of fact, I think one a police officer did open up something off of Isaacs. Was that 15th Street? I think they opened up like a. I don't think it was a West Palm. He might have been sheriff or something, but he has a. He had, anyways, a little convenience store right off Isaac, right next to the railroad tracks.
there was an officer that had a spot, a little store off of Third or Fourth Street,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
like Division. I don't want to say his name on, but anyways, he was a retired West Palm guy,
Right.
and had that little store. But yeah, you know, just it's definitely, I think things maybe two generations prior to me in law enforcement
Right.
is where you were just talking about, where everybody knew, oh, Mike, that's Mr. Seville's son. You know, oh, Lou, Mr. Maroto's son, right? And that's like, and I can say more about it in the South End, because if you go to South End or City, predominantly, you know, Cuban, Latin, right?
Yeah, like Parker,
yeah,
and-
off of Parker,
Yeah.
Southern.
I love that area.
Everybody knows everybody in that area. From even that police officers that retired within the last couple of years, they grew up in that area. So as police officers, right, they had just happened to work in those areas, and people were more, I don't know if accommodating is the word, so more reasonable when they went to these calls. They knew that that's Lou showing up, and let me try to figure out this domestic issue that I'm dealing with.
It makes a huge difference, and I think we have to start thinking about things like that socially. I mean, now I think things tend, and there's like and I choose not to really accept it, but it is what it is. You know, it could be what it is. It is what we make it. But with social media and just people just, you know, online warriors or whatever you want to call them, and just kind of getting away from that social aspect, I don't necessarily know how great that is for people, because I think we need to interact on a one-on-one basis. One of the biggest issues that I've seen is that let's say you and I, we can work together all day long and come up with different solutions and actually work pretty well together. But then when we go home, because you may watch, you know, CNN and I may watch Fox,
Fake
all
news.
of a sudden,
CNN fake news.
yeah. So you may watch CNN and I may watch Fox. All of a sudden, we're just polarizing, and now we're going at each other on the computer. Like, I don't know about this guy, Lou. But the next day, we're like working together, like, and we're
It's like that cartoon.
and we're figuring that out. But then we go home, and it's just like, this guy Lou is crazy. Like, I don't know if I like Lou anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like it, because now we have this barrier of social media, and mixed into it is all this information that may or may not necessarily be true, or it could be skewed one way or skewed the other way. So, I mean, it gets crazy that way. We have to start looking at people with good faith. Like, man, I hear what Lou is saying online. Let me go have this conversation with him when I see him tomorrow. You know what I mean? As opposed to going back like, Lou, listen, this is why you're wrong. You know what I mean? And you're like, let me get...
Yeah, there's no emotions.
Yeah.
Just so you people know, there's no emotions when you text.
Yeah,
You know?
but who is that director?
Are you screaming at me? I'm like, no, I just text.
Who are you director? That one hit Lou personally. There is no like I used to hear people just like, and this is what he said to me. He said,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait a minute.
How do you know what?
You know,
It's texting.
what was he or she wearing when she texted it to you? You know, but have that conversation in person. Like, listen, Lou, I see you, and be open minded too. Don't go there with an accusatory statement like, Lou, what do you mean by it? What information do you have? Because maybe you have some information that I don't know about. I mean, you give it to me, I'm like, whoa, okay. And maybe I'll go and I'll do the research on it. Then I'll come back and I'm like, man, Lou, you were right, or whatever, you know. But egos, social media, barriers, etc. Man,
I think things definitely have changed for the better nowadays, from what I've seen.
okay.
Because I see a lot of, like, I just saw some photos of the police department doing some stuff off of Spruce,
Okay.
doing some stuff off of Pinewood, you know, dealing with the community centers.
Got to.
So, you know, it was, you know, I didn't
like
read the
that.
whole article, but it's on Facebook. Well, you saw a lot of the command staff up there, a lot of the officers from community policing doing their thing. So it's good that we're meshing
Right.
Law enforcement back with the community. Because for a while, we were really separated, especially during, like you said, during all these incidents
Right.
that have occurred within the last, 2 years?
So you, I did, like I said, you probably, when I was in my 20s, when I met you, was when I kind of was like, oh, well, maybe they aren't so bad.
Militant Mike.
So for about maybe from the age of, I don't know, since teenagers to mid 25, like it was this us against them kind of attitude. So I'm going back into the early 2000s, late 90s, etc. So I maybe it was the 90s, that 90s period, 87, NWA, F the police, or whatever.
Yeah.
From that point out, probably before that, because I think, art imitates life. So, they were experiencing what they were experiencing in that community. This is LA. And then for that time, the narrative was, it was us against them. Look at all the movies. Movies like Copland, and then you had the movies with the, all the boys in the hood. When they had Trey up against the car, the guy had the gun to hate your black. So all these narratives were being pushed at that time. I'm ingesting all of it. I don't know one police officer. You know what I mean? So every time I'm encountering a police officer, I'm thinking about negatively. You know what I mean? Why are they thinking of me? And then on the flip side, all these same movies, you see all these gangsters, et cetera, music. This is the music that they listen to. So now the police officer possibly could be looking at probably never really had an interaction with someone, because you got people who become police officers who lived on the south side their entire life, never ventured over into the north side.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you.
Their first time they go to the north side is when they're in a patrol car. And so it's just like, ooh, I don't know.
No, and I've seen that personally, where people that just came straight out of college and never had to deal with somebody that came from a lower income area, right? And maybe might dress differently, dreads, goatee, for stuff like that.
Income, lower socioeconomic. No. Yeah, but 1,000%.
And then you see the fear.
Yeah,
fear takes over, and we're like, "Hey, buddy," or you don't. This is not for you, because either you're gonna hurt yourself, or you're gonna get somebody hurt.
And your job is like one of those jobs where you can't really have bad days.
You can't half-ass it.
It can end up being like a life and death situation where it often does, and I think a lot of those crazy incidents that we saw was this person having a really off day, and it was just like, this was not the day for you to have this off day.
Nope.
And boom.
There's a lot of pressure, but this is what you sign up for, and you have to learn how to deal with that pressure,
right?
And that's why we as instructors, we try to train these new officers, because the biggest thing that these officers need to do when they go out there and interact with the community is you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to speak to people, right? Because that old pointing fingers of get off the corner, that doesn't work anymore.
Oh, don't you all have something where you do this?
Stay back. You're violating my space.
That's what you all, is that a training? Is that where you have it? Because all you all do.
We like to keep a perimeter, a certain radius around us. That if you enter that radius, that perimeter, you violating my. You're not social distancing. There you go.
Now you can say social distancing.
Social distancing started back when.
Oh no! Sorry, you got to put.
No, I don't see this. I just say, back up, buddy. You're getting close enough. But that's where you need to learn how to communicate. Sir, do me a favor, just stay there for a second. Let me figure out what's going on.
Let me go back to the car. Can you hang out for a little bit? I've seen some interesting stuff too, and social media brings it out, because I seen a young lady who got pulled over. She automatically goes on live, and she says she's like
getting harassed. Or...
No. She puts on live. She's like, "Oh, I ain't going to jail." She obviously knew that she had a bunch of her license was suspended, whatever it was, and she's like, "I ain't going to jail." And this officer's like standing by her door, and he's telling her to do something. She turns the car back on, you know what I mean, and proceeds like this, and then he ends up breaking the window on her. He's like, "Oh my!" And she's like, "Why did you do this to me?" He's like, "You can't pull over."
I think I've seen that video.
You're getting pulled over. you're turning the car back on. Obviously, you're about to, what is that, absconding? What is she? She's trying to leave. She's trying to leave.
She's leaving, yeah.
She's trying to get out of there, but this guy is standing like right next to her car door. So, like, what are you supposed? You have to do your job essentially. And she knew she was in the wrong. I think one of the things was like, if you don't want to get harassed, you have a better probability of not being harassed if you're not committing a crime.
And and like that scenario, we actually teach officers nowadays. Think of the totality of the circumstances
Everything that's going
for
on.
that specific incident that you're in.
Right.
So say like a traffic stop. If I know that Mike Seville, I already know you from previous contacts. I know that you live wherever. If I know that you have a suspended driver's license and now you take off on me or whatever, it's not worth for me to try to chase you, right? Because one, it's not allowed, okay? Two, I already have you identified. I know who you are. I can put you behind the steering wheel. So what's the easiest thing? Instead of getting 2-3 people killed, because this guy's running from, because you're running from me, is you mail the ticket. It's that easy. I mail you a ticket, and I'll see you in court. If you don't go to court,
I don't go to jail for leaving.
If you don't go to court, then you would get a warrant.
If you pull me over and I have a suspended license or something, do people go to jail for something now?
You can go to jail. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can go to jail.
So he could,
especially if you're like habitual.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But again, it's a traffic infraction, but it is criminal when you're habitual. Right. But again, if you take off, and now I try to start following you or chasing you.
But is that another charge for taking off?
Yeah. They'll hit you up with something else, right? Your supervisor is gonna immediately get on that radio and say, let him go. Let him or her go.
It's not worth it.
No, absolutely not. So again, we teach officers, look at the totality of circumstances. Is it worth for you to get into a chase and now you hurt somebody?
Yeah, 1,000%.
So, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're teaching officers nowadays. Hopefully things have gotten better.
See, I think this conversation is excellent and needs to be had. I think people need to understand, like it's not just they're giving you a badge and a gun and telling you to.
There you go.
And yeah, there you go. Like a lot of these things are being taught. Like, listen, definitely the communication is key. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, you don't necessarily. I think it's tough for you all to have bad days. You're right, but someone else could be having a bad day. And the way that you communicate, someone's wife could have left them, or something crazy could have happened. I'm just coming up with these different scenarios. Someone could have passed or whatever, and now you're pulling them over, and their interaction with you may be something totally different. So if you come, if an officer comes with this, a-hole status, like blah 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 blah, the more cause there might be a blow up in the situation. So because you never know what other people are going through.
Absolutely. Now here's another scenario. When I stop somebody, right, whether it be on the interstate or in the street, when I worked in other units, I already knew that driver's adrenaline dump is up here at 10.
Yeah.
Right? Because they may know they're riding dirty. They may know they may have warrants. They may know they have something's going on. Right? My adrenaline dump is up here too because I don't know who you are. We've never met. So it's my job when I go up to your window and introduce myself like we're supposed to do, right, is, hey, Mike, I know you have a suspended driver's license. And then this is my technique, and I teach this to other officers that come in. And I say, Mike, listen, I know you have a suspended driver's license. No big deal. So I'm starting to calm you down.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, see?
No big deal. I said, listen, you are going to get in a ticket. I said, and if you have nothing else active right now, I'll even if I have the time, I'll let someone come pick up your car, the owner of the vehicle. It has to be the owner. We can't just give the vehicle to anybody else. But that, you gotta have triggers and hooks. More hooks than triggers. I didn't mean to say triggers, but more hooks. Right. Hook that person, get them on your side, and now you start to, because we teach the escalating techniques, diffusion. We're not trying to take it to where you have to use some kind of force.
Right.
That person that you're dealing with is going to dictate what kind of force is needed to take care of that call, right? And again, we as police officers, we don't want to use deadly force on anyone. We have other tools on our belt that we can use. But now, if that person dictates that they have a weapon, now the officer has discretion to do what he has to do. But de-escalating, diffusion is huge nowadays in law enforcement.
I think what's going on, like you said, it's getting better. And I think from your side, you're seeing it. I think there's an image and marketing issue within the police department. And this is just generally because you are fighting the news. You're fighting social media. You're fighting what people putting out there. So for every great, every terrible thing, every great thing that you all do, or every terrible thing that you all do, like there's like a ratio to it, because you have to combat that. So for the one time that something happened in Minnesota, you know what I mean? Like
we're 3 steps down.
Yeah. Now you have to spend X amount of money, or you have to do such and such marketing in order to combat that. So, combat that thing from what it was. So, it's interesting. I'm glad that you know that's getting better. Like I said, I'm in my neighborhood and listen.
You're just happy.
Hey,
you're out there smiling. Would you like some lemonade, sir?
Smiling for no reason. Like, listen, you want something at the house? You look a little parched. Yeah, dope. I enjoy it.
Well, it's a good deal, man. Let's see. We're going on an hour and change. So, let me thank you again for showing up at the last minute, Mike, with my numerous.
Mike 3 times.
I know, Mike 3 times. Well, I know Joel gonna call me. Beethoven might call me. But no, I appreciate you showing up at the last minute. I think we got to talk about your real estate. Talked a little bit about law enforcement in the community, and some business ideas and stuff like that. So again, this is episode number 9 of What's Next podcast. If you're watching it, do me a favor, please like it, subscribe it, help me keep this platform going. Again, this platform is more for not just law enforcement and military. That was just today's topic, but it's more for you guys. Let me listen to your stories, your trials and tribulations. How do you dealt with them obstacles in life, and what stories, that story, how can it help somebody in the future, someone who's listening, and prevent them possibly from making the same mistakes or taking the same actions that might have put you in that predicament. So I thank you guys for listening. Again, my name is Lou Maroto from What's Next podcast. You can watch it on YouTube, and then check out my boy Mike. What's your on IG and
Mike Seville Real Estate. YouTube, it's Mike Seville Real Estate. YouTube, Mike Seville Real Estate. Instagram, Michael Seville Real Estate. And Facebook Live, Michael Seville. It's easy.
And again, it's Mondays and what?
Mondays at 9. And then, of course, on the 27th, we'll be doing another show, which will be Fridays at 6.
Check it out. I've jumped in a couple of times, and then I sat back and just listened and kind of, just soak up the knowledge. So, again, thank you, everybody, for watching today's show. Hopefully, we'll have this out by next week, sometime middle next week. Peace.
I saw your face and you grabbed it, you're like, I was like, oh, nah, it's a red light that's supposed to be there.
How did I fuck that one up?
That was good, man. You're an excellent interviewer, Lou.
Shit, I don't even write it down. I like feeding off, just having a conversation.
Makes it more organic. It's still running. Is that supposed to run?
Yeah.